all the uncertainty that this past couple of years has thrown at us, many of us as business owners are really thinking about how can we make our companies more robust, and also how do we make sure that we make the most of the opportunities that now present themselves as a result of this massive sense of uncertainty around the world. But uncertainty is also inherent in any kind of business transition. So if you're changing up your business model, if you're moving your business into a new world, how do you do that successfully? That's what the topic of today's video is all about. Now, it's fair to say that some businesses since 2020 are experiencing uncertainty for the first time. They're experiencing supply chain issues, structural issues within their business that they never had before. And while your focus, if this is you, is on making sure that you can deliver to your customers in the best way possible, these things often highlight where there are weaknesses within our business. And the great news is, it's a good opportunity to address those weaknesses and make some important changes. Plugging those gaps can only be a good thing for your business to make it much more resilient for the future. As a result of COVID, you might have had to re-engineer all kinds of things in your business, from the kind of products and services you provide and how you provide them, to your credit facilities and the arrangements that you've made there, to your internal business processes and how your teams are structured. You might have had to transition your entire business online so that you can reach new customers or even to serve existing ones, and you've had to find new ways of doing that. And also you may have had to grapple with the concept of your entire team remote working where no one ever did that before. These have been huge challenges, really stressful times for CEOs. But I think at the same time, people have been adapting so incredibly well in the circumstances. And many have found that new opportunities have also come along that they never would have thought about before. So today I thought I'd give some insight into what we've been doing here behind the scenes at Fiona Lynn to help companies through those kind of transitions, and also to share some tips which I think will be really useful for anybody going through any kind of transition in their business. So let's dive in straight away with 5 key guiding principles that I think it's really important to keep front of mind to successfully manage a transition in your business. Practice great communication. Keep the key people you depend on in your business informed. So that's not only your customers, but it's especially your team. It's your suppliers, any contractors that you have, any professional advisors that you've got to support you, and even family and friends. Opening and maintaining those lines of communication, it's really helpful not only for defraying issues that might come down the road, but also because it can help you find solutions that you hadn't thought of. You'd be surprised how often a conversation with a supplier that you thought was going to go really badly actually turned into an opportunity in which you could both serve each other better. So always look for the mutual advantage, and don't just assume that because things have to change between you, it needs to be for the worst. And sometimes change means that we have to change suppliers, and that can be tricky, but at the same time, think about what's best for your business in the long term. This is all about ensuring structural stability and sustainability. It goes without saying that you're really going to need to take your team along with you. And the more you can give them some ownership of some of the challenges that you're likely to face along the way, and also the solutions that they can develop between themselves, that's going to make your team feel really invested in the project's success. When it comes to friends and family, that's probably a bit of a different conversation, but it's one that's just as important. If this transition is going to mean you working longer hours in the office, or if it's going to mean that you need to travel to different places, then you really do need to talk to your loved ones. Let them know how they can support you, and also give them an opportunity to talk through any concerns that they might have. It might just be the perfect opportunity to get those date nights actually in the diary and make them sacrosanct. I'm going to come on to that later, but this support is really invaluable because managing change can be really, really hard, and ultimately your company is your baby. So you really want as many people as possible, as many people that you love and trust, to be on board with it and supportive along the way. Number 2, remind yourself why you're doing this. There will be times during transition where it feels like everything's broken, nothing's working, and all the problems fall squarely with you to deal with. Ultimately, the buck always stops with you, and that can be overwhelming. As well as remembering why you set out on this course in the first place, remembering how much stronger and more resilient this is going to make your company in the longer term. Also keep in mind that this is a temporary situation. Transition isn't meant to last for years, although actually it can, and people often underestimate the time that it takes to make a significant business transition. You have to be incredibly patient with yourself and incredibly patient with your team. But when you've successfully made that transition, your company is going to be more robust, more sustainable, and more profitable. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. Just keep that vision of where you're taking the company front and center, particularly for those kind of dark moments where you're feeling bleary-eyed and tired and overwhelmed and wish it would all just go away and wish that you'd never made this transition in the first place, because those days will come. It will be worth it. Number 3, keep an eye on the numbers. I can't stress this one enough. Pay really close attention to your cash flow. Make sure that you've budgeted sensibly for everything that you can possibly imagine, and then make sure that you've also got contingency funding in place, because there is nothing certain about things in transition. Also, remember to keep track of your business data, and obviously that's going to look different for different types of business. But make sure that you can spot what key trends are emerging. Make sure that you're monitoring the changes that you're making in your business. Some of these effects might be temporary, others may give you important information that you need to listen and respond to. So definitely make sure that whether it's you or somebody else in your business, that somebody is monitoring all of the data. For example, if you spot a trend with customer complaints, or if you notice deadline slipping, or there's a part of your sales that's not working, you want to be able to spot that quickly and address it. Number 4, adopt a project management approach. This is how you're going to be able to spot issues ahead of time, and also how you're going to be able to manage any delays, and there will be delays. There are so many different moving parts when it comes to making any kind of transition in your business, and you need to be able to see everything in one place so that you can see how things relate to one another. You need to be able to adjust, so you need to know what's going on. Because when 5 things actually depend on one thing being on time, you can see how easily things unravel and go wrong if you're not spotting it. If you do spot it, you can put contingencies in place, you can make the adjustments, and you can just smooth out that problem. I would say that depending on the complexity of whatever your transition is, if you don't have the experience or expertise in-house to do this kind of level of project management, I would really encourage you to look to a professional to do it. It may be a case of outsourcing the entire project management to them, in which case you do need to still stay very much part of the process and have all of your team involved. Or perhaps you just get some assistance setting things up. Either way, make sure there's somebody in-house with overall responsibility for that project, whether it's you or someone else. And finally, number 5, schedule time for managing transition. This is one that is so often overlooked. It seems obvious to say, but when you're in transition in your business, it is not a case of business as usual. And yet in one sense it is. The business as it is has to carry on. But at the same time, you're going to need extra time to think, to plan, to adjust, to respond to what's happening. And that's going to be you, and it's probably going to be members of your team as well. And let me tell you, if you're all doing it alongside your day job, something's got to give. So my advice to you is to decide what that's going to be up front. How are you going to create more space in your diary, more space in your day? How are you going to ensure that team members aren't feeling overburdened, because not only do they have to keep all of these day-to-day business things running, but they also have to manage this transition on top. That certainly is a recipe for burnout, and it's also one that's going to hit your productivity massively. So think about that ahead of time. If your diary is normally very heavy with meetings, perhaps you reduce the length of time that you're in those meetings, or perhaps you delegate those to somebody else. We can often be more efficient in meetings than we actually are. So that's something to think about, and it's a quick win as well. Who knows, you might even find that it becomes a long-term thing, which I have seen happen. The other thing that's really important if you're the CEO of the business is that you're going to have to increase your capacity to manage the energy of what's going on. So by that I mean that it's your job to lead your team through transition. I see it as broadcasting a steady signal to everybody else, whoever you come into contact with, whether it's your team, whether it's your suppliers, whether it's your customers, that there is inherent stability within the business. You need to be that anchor in the storm, because there is turbulence associated with change. Everything will not go right all of the time. Things are going to feel pretty uncertain and pretty shaky from time to time. And you're also going to feel that too. That is just the reality, because you're a human being. So there are two key things that I think you really need if you're the CEO and your business is going through a major transition. I think you need that breathing space in your diary particularly. I think you have to be very careful about how you manage your time and your energy and who you're spending your time around. And I think the other thing that is really key is to have somebody that you trust, whether it's a professional advisor or a mentor, or perhaps a trusted friend or business associate, somebody who's been through this before, someone you can use as a sounding board, and somebody that's got that experienced hand to guide you when things are really difficult. It's important to remember that all businesses experience transition in different and unique ways. In many ways, it's easier to focus on business processes because normally there's a lot of re-engineering to do there, and it's much more tangible and also much easier to plan for and mitigate. The part that really makes the difference, though, is the more personal side of things. Helping the people that drive your business or contribute to making it a success to cope with the changes and challenges that you're facing really is key. You need to be understanding of the pressures that they're under as well as the ones that you're facing. But remember, you should also be guiding them towards a future that not only makes sense to you in your mind, but also to them. Because the stronger and more sustainable your company is, the better it is for everyone. And the most successful transitions I've seen have resulted in staff being much more engaged than they were before, and also much more productive and more invested in the company overall. These, I think, are the hallmarks of a successful transition. I think it can be a really exciting time, and you do have to keep that front of mind, because yes, there will be dark days and yes, there will be challenges. But ultimately, you're not going to do this unless it's taking your company to a better place. So approach this all with confidence, knowing that you are the person to lead the company through this transition and out to the other side. Keep these 5 guiding principles in mind, and of course, if you specifically want us to help you through this process of transition, then do just get in touch. We're always happy to get on a quick Zoom call to see where we might be able to offer some support. So if that's something you're interested in, you'll find a link below to contact us in the description. Last of all, I just want to wish you every success in your transition. Remember, you're doing a great job and your company's going to be the better for it. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.